Good morning. So I'm Andrew Douglas from the Urban Farm Project. Urban agriculture is where you grow food, process food, harvest food within the city limits. It's sort of about, urban farming is generally about growing perishable crops closer to its end source. The first type of project we're going to talk about here is Urban Oyster. So Urban Oyster is a project where we collect used coffee waste and we use it as a substrate to grow oyster mushrooms. So if you imagine a cup of coffee here I've taken out of the flask down there, that's been grown in South America. The plant has been pesticides, been fungicide, it's been grown from a small seed up to a big plant. All along the kind of production line of coffee production, there's a massive waste of the resources. So in this cup of coffee here, as I'm drinking it, there's less than 0.1% of actual coffee, of the actual plant's biomass in this cup of coffee. So again, as I say, all along the kind of production line of coffee, it being grown, it being watered, it being fertilized, fungicide, pesticide, harvested, it's then the beans, the cherries are taken, they're processed, they're roasted, they're grinded, they're transported, they're refrigerated, they're unrefrigerated. So there's a lot of waste there. So at the end of that production line, the coffee waste generally goes from a cafe into big black bags and heads off to landfill. And when it goes to landfill, it creates a lot of methane gas. So by us diverting the coffee waste and using it as a substrate to grow oyster mushrooms, we're making safe the coffee waste and we're also producing another food source from that and two other revenues. So the idea behind this is it's a social enterprise. At the moment we've come up with these small little kits. They're about, they'll sit your kitchen counter, and basically you at home will use your coffee waste at home to grow oyster mushrooms. It comes with a small pouch of psyllium. The bigger story behind this is that we want to convert two 40-foot shipping containers in the city centre, collect all the coffee waste from 3K radius, a 3 kilometre radius, basically taking in the coffee waste from all these cafes and restaurants. So they pay us to take the coffee waste because we're a waste collector. When we harvest our mushrooms, we then send them back out to the same outlets that we collected our coffee waste from, so therefore we're selling the mushrooms back into the local area. And then our byproduct, which is the coffee and mycelium, makes a really good soil enhancer. It can be fed to livestock and so forth. So that will go back out into that 3K radius, into community gardens and so forth. So the bigger idea is to have a lot of satellite farms. So if we set this up in the city centre and somebody out in Dunleary says, will you take my coffee and really looking for mushrooms, or the community gardens out there want some of the soil enhancing byproduct that comes from us, then we'll go out to Dunleary and set up a small set up two 40-foot shipping containers out in Dunleary and use all the coffee waste from that local area, put the mushrooms back out there. So eventually, all over the country, we want to see small satellite urban oyster farms all over the place, employing 1 or 2 people and basically working as a social enterprise, taking in waste, giving out food, and also adding to the biodiversity and, I suppose, natural sustainability of those local areas. So that's kind of Urban Oyster. These are summer oyster mushrooms. That's the little kit there. So again, the idea behind this is it's a very lean canvas. So at the moment, we haven't got the funds to set up a very big oyster mushroom farm. So the best way for us to get the message out there is to make all you people the mushroom farmers. And by giving you and enabling you with this small kit and the mushroom mycelium, then you can take that idea forward. That gives us kudos. We get finance. We have a bigger farm. We take over the country. So, you know, you got to start small sometimes. These are the pink oyster mushrooms and the summer oyster mushrooms again. When I first started this idea, you know, I wrote a big business plan. I was trying to look for 70,000 and I wanted to build a big, huge mushroom farm. That's not going to work, you know. You got to start small, influence a lot more people, get the idea out there, see that it works at ground level, and then just kind of keep pushing it, you know. So that's eventually going to be happening in October or so forth. We're in talks with local authorities about taking over derelict spaces around the city centre where we can put our mushroom farm.
There's me with all my potatoes. So we've been growing a collection of 180 different variety and heritage and heirloom potatoes. We first started growing them on top of the chocolate factory back in 2013. They're now, in 2014, we brought them all around the place. I'm probably one of the only people who ever got into the electric picnic and body and soul using the platform of potatoes. It's amazing what sort of doors you can open up when you start showing people your spuds. So what we do here, again, we're using kind of an upcycled, recycled materials. These are water cooler bottles. There's 2 water cooler bottles. The bottom one holds water. The top one holds soil and seed potato. And then we've put an offcut of artificial grass around it, just to kind of protect the soil, and also to act as also makes them look a lot funkier, but that basically protects the soil and the tubers. And they're both joined together by a bit of landscape matting. It's this kind of black porous matting that you see that they put over your gardens, suppress weeds growing up. So, I mean, the idea behind this is that there's no government organisation looking after or mining the heritage of our potatoes. There's over 5,500 different varieties of potato in the world. In Ireland, we have about 380 different varieties of potato. If you leave it up to the Irish Potato Federation or these type of organisations, all you're going to see is roosters, because they're the most viable potatoes. And, you know, these aren't kind of potatoes that you'll find in woodies or that you'll find as a seed potato to grow, and you certainly won't find a lot of them in any of the supermarkets. So it takes an individual about 15 to 20 years to develop a strain of potato. So we've got 180 different varieties in our collection. So if you imagine the amount of time and effort that people have put into actually developing these potatoes, and now they've just kind of been forgotten about. So every year when we harvest the tank potato collection, we don't harvest to consume, we harvest to pass on the seed potato to other people so that they can grow it. And we ask them that when they harvest their potatoes the following year, they'll pass them on to their neighbours, give them the same story, and then eventually everybody's going to be growing these potatoes in their back gardens, on their balconies and pots and so forth. So that's a lovely little history, kind of history and heritage project. They range from 1774 up to 2003. So there's a lot of different unique styles and varieties in them. My neighbours didn't know what I was growing in my back garden when I had these out. They kind of look a bit like something from the Trailer Park Boys. I had to bring them in and show them around. Spuds. So there's the potatoes up in Belvedere College. We have a few different projects in Belvedere College. This is where the students are growing the potato pods on the rooftop. And then this is when we took the potatoes out on tour. So like I said, during 2014, we did have a rooftop farm on top of the chocolate factory. That kind of ended in 2014 due to planning due to all sorts of different issues. So because we'd made all the kind of different planters modular, it meant that we could take them up with us and leave if trouble came along. So we took everything and we left the chocolate factory rooftop, and as the potato project was one of the more kind of viable, visually stunning projects, we brought that on tour all around the city. So there they are there in Christchurch Cathedral. This was the Flower Festival in Christchurch Cathedral. There they are then. Again, as you can see, it's kind of like the little terracotta army. When you go through the potatoes, you can see all the different characteristics in the vegetation and the different blooms on them. And, you know, I mean, having these in Christchurch Cathedral, we got a lot of tourists coming through and a lot of conversation and dialogue between that. And, you know, it kind of opens up, you know, why aren't we growing, you know, we do have this kind of black romance with the potato in Ireland because of the lumper potato that happened back during the famine time. So I think it is kind of, you know, we should be encouraging more interaction with the spud in all sorts of manners. This is part of Belvedere College. This is where we have, they have a top floor science laboratory. So there it is there. So that's a top floor science laboratory in Belvedere College. This was an unused space. It was built about 7 years ago within the school. And basically all they were kind of using was these dissection tables, and maybe once or twice a year they kind of use that to dissect cows' hearts and so forth. So it was kind of basically an underused space, and the college was aware of that fact. So they kind of called us in and asked us what we could do with it. So we installed some of our aquaponics systems. Aquaponics is the merger of aquaculture and hydroponics. In aquaculture, you farm fish in a closed system. The negativity of that is that you have to discharge a high nitrate water because it becomes too toxic for the fish. In hydroponics is where you're growing plants in a soilless medium, but the disadvantage of that is you have to use a petroleum-based chemical nutrient. So when you get aquaculture and hydroponics and merge them together, instead of us discharging the nitrate water from our fish tanks in aquaculture, we pump them into our grow beds here, and instead of using a petroleum-based chemical nutrient, the high nitrate water from the fish tank acts as the fertilizer. So the basic theory behind this is that we feed the fish excrete ammonia from their gills, urine and feces. That ammonia becomes the nitrates. We pump that into the grow bed. In the grow bed, the naturally occurring nitrifying bacteria break the ammonia's nitrates down into a usable source for the plants to use as a fertilizer, and thus then the plants filter out the water for the fishes. So that's a kind of a symbiotic system. At the moment where we have tilapia fish in the tanks, tilapia is a warm water fish. It's pretty much the second largest aquaculture fish in the world. It's not something that we're too familiar with over here in Ireland. We have rainbow trout in the systems. Rainbow trout, they just required a lot more water movement. The tilapia was a lot more friendly towards the systems. I won't go into it too much, but these systems are also hooked up to Arduinos. The Arduino enables the fish and the plants to send out tweets. So that also kind of, because it's in a school, that also captures the imagination of the students and the idea that, you're kind of giving a more bells and whistles, a bit of a life force to the actual fish and plants. It's all done with relays. When the fish feeder turns on to feed the fish, it clicks a relay, sends out a message from the fish to say thanks, we've been watered. When the pump turns on to irrigate the grow bed, that clicks off another relay, and that comes out a little message from the planties to say thanks, we've been watered. So there are aquaponic systems. And then over the far side here we have a sort of a vertical hydroponic system where we're using LED lighting. And again, these are all sorts of different principles of urban agriculture, how you can grow food in small spaces within self-contained kind of a system. The bigger picture behind this is, that is a pretty big picture. There's also 9 beehives on the rooftop of the school. That's in collaboration with the Dublin Honey Project. And as that program, we've been running that project in Belvedere for about a year and a half. Kind of piloting and beta testing what can work within the school. And from the last 18 months of being in the school, we've had a lot of positive reporting coming back from it. So hopefully that will go on, and there's ideas to build a bigger greenhouse in the actual school. So we'll see what happens from that. I suppose, the idea of being able to bring in secondary school students and show them horticulture, show them plant care, show them aquaponics, hydroponics. It's when you kind of go into a Jesuit school, you say you want to start teaching the students how to grow hydroponically, a few eyebrows are raised, as you can imagine. But I suppose, this isn't something that's new. It's been done all over the world. There's school gardens all over the world. It is something new that's happening in Ireland. And it's something that's going to catch on, and it's going to go a lot further. Where else are we going? So, probably run myself out of slides. So again, as Brian was talking about, Social Hops is a project that we started this year. Social Hops is all about growing hops in your back garden, on your balcony, and basically the bigger story behind that is that we used to have a lot of hop farms all over Ireland, and then a particularly large brewery that, our kind of national brewery, if you want to call it that, they kind of went around the country as they got bigger and bigger and bigger and bought up all these small microbreweries that we used to have. Attached to all those small microbreweries were kind of hop farms. As they bought up these breweries, they started importing importing hop extract, hop oil extracts. All these small hop farms basically disappeared. Now we have a big change around from all that. So we have the big national breweries still there, but we have all these microbreweries popping back up again. So the idea behind growing hops locally for local brewers just made a lot more sense. We have about 180 people in this country at the moment growing hop plants in their back gardens, balconies, rooftops, in cafes, in the back of pubs, all sorts of places. And this is a year one of a 3-year project. By year one, you only have a small amount of hops. Year two, a bigger amount. Year three, an even bigger amount. So, I mean, this is kind of a project that people are getting on board that wouldn't necessarily be thinking about they want to grow a cabbage or they want to grow a cauliflower. They haven't got much interest in that. Do you want to grow beer? People have an interest in that. Certain people, anyway. So, I mean, I suppose it's another way of communicating and getting people together on the form of growing, but not necessarily as a food stock, you know. I mean, the Social Hops kind of project came as this, you know, I've been working with the Belvedere College for a year. I was hanging out with schoolboys eating microgreens. I wanted to kind of up the game a bit, so now I hang out in bars and I drink beer as a good excuse for being there. So, you know, I mean, again, it's not, it's one project I kind of didn't tweet about, and it's one I didn't want to kind of push too much because we did have a lot of stuff on the plate at the time. But certainly just from 2 or 3 tweets, it multiplied itself, and it was supposed to be just in Dublin, but now it's down in Carlow, Kilkenny, Tipperary, it's in Cork, it's in Cork, it's in Cork, it's in Waterford, Kildare, Wicklow. So it's kind of spread out all over the place, and everybody's going to get together this October in the Dublin end of things. We're going to bring our plants up to the Bernard Shaw pub up in Portobello. We're also growing them on their rooftop terrace, and we're going to communally harvest all the hops off the vine in their beer garden, send it off to Rascal's Brewery up in Rathcoole. Within 24 hours of us harvesting the cones and sending them to Rascal's, it enables them to be able to use them in a wet hopped beer. So there's not very much opportunity for brewers in the city or in the country to get their hands on hop cones that have been harvested within the last 12-24 hours. So this also enables then Rascal's to kind of bring out a very unique beer also. And I suppose a lot of what we kind of do in the urban farm is collaboration with other businesses. You see the rooftop potato project, that would be in collaboration with the Boxy House restaurant and Temple Bar. Social Hops would be in collaboration with O'Hara's, with Rascal's. Urban Oyster would be in collaboration with a few different coffee shops. So, I mean, it's kind of all about connecting businesses, communities, and these projects all together on a certain level, you know, without trying to, I mean, if I was a Formula 1 racing driver, I'd have a lot of sponsorship all over me. But we don't get sponsored in that sense, you know. It's, I suppose, you know, I mean, a lot of what we do, or what I do, is kind of a labour of love. And you know, the first time I started Urban Farm was about 4 years ago. And the kind of way I've looked at everything before, I couldn't find anywhere that I wanted to kind of do all these different projects and kind of upskill myself in hydroponics or aquaponics or you know, how many mushrooms there are, how many different potatoes there are. So I consider what I've done over the last 4 years is kind of putting myself through college. I've just given myself a degree this year. It's my 4th year. I had some exhibits down in the science gallery during the future farming exhibition. So I saw that as my kind of end of year graduation kind of show. And basically what we're kind of doing now is we're going back over the last 4 years, back over all the successful projects, all the failed projects, what worked, what was a disaster. And we're basically kind of aiming and packaging the whole company towards, you know, gearing it up for finance, for funding, for grants, for a bigger space. So yeah, I mean, if I don't know if I made any sense this morning or not. I was up quite late. I couldn't sleep, of course, as always these events are. If you want to have a look at our website, urbanfarm.ie, we have a lot of videos up there. All right. Yeah. That makes sense? Big clap. All right.